Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. What was that?
Oh, I said, are you ready? Ready to go?
100%. Let's do it.
All right, go ahead and send it to somebody.
And we have our special guest this week, Brianna Wu. We're going to be diving in, asking all of the most important questions. Brianna, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing today?
I'm hyped to be here. I'm a little bit croaky. I was at a science fiction convention all weekend, so my voice, you'll get everything I've got, but I may be.
Oh, did we lose her?
Hello?
Oh,
Are you still here?
there,
Oh,
she's back.
yep, you're back.
Oh, man.
Okay, so I guess we'll kick this off. So my biggest question is, what are you doing in Twitch politics? Why are you here? Like you're successful. You're kind of infamous in a lot of places. Like what brought you to this space with all of us nobodies?
Oh, I wouldn't call you a nobody. I think, a conclusion I've come to, I'm in my 40s, is that to be really honest, the biggest impact I've seen in my career recently is going on YouTube shows and Twitch shows. More so than say doing a national NBC hit. I think this is a really important space where the culture is set. I think everybody here is, I think some proportion of you are going to be the really big political tastemakers of tomorrow. And it just seems like a good career use of my time, if that makes sense.
Okay, what are kind of some of your plans? Like, what do you plan on doing here?
What I plan on doing here, I plan on trying to be an adult and to bring a perspective on issues that I care about to the platform. I think I would criticize Twitch politics that it tends to be about a lot of streamer drama and what XQC said or QT Cinderella that week or what's going on with the sun. I think that there is a more powerful conversation that could be happening here, and I'd like to be a part of that conversation.
What are some things that you like to talk about? Like person, what are things that you enjoy speaking
Oh,
about?
I mean, for me as a person, I'm a complete video game nerd. I just beat Dead Space for the third time this morning. Speed running. I'm obsessed with Porsche. I have a whole Porsche collection, and I collect pinball machines.
Oh, hi. Thanks
That's really
for
cool. What do you
checking
talk
in.
about
I'm
on the
still a piece of
politics?
Oh,
garbage.
Like, what do you enjoy?
when it comes to politics, what are my biggest issues? I think I'd probably say women's rights. Like that's the really big one that I'm known for talking about. Obviously during GamerGate, there was a really critical thing that we talked about back there. The way that women were treated in the video game industry. To just be really honest, my focus right now is trying to stop the United States from sliding into fascism. The Republican Party has been playing with some extremely dangerous ideas for a very long time. And I think now is really the time to put aside some really unproductive infighting and to focus on the real threats to our country and our democracy.
Wow. And on this, you ran for Congress. Is that
I did. Yes, it
correct?
is.
Okay, why did you run for Congress? Like was that process?
Well, I ran for so two questions here. Why did I run for Congress and what was the process? The process is really straightforward. You can go do it right now. Just go fill out a form on the FEC website signaling your intent to run. To actually be on the ballot, here in Massachusetts, you've got to get thousands and thousands of signatures, which means, going around talking to voters, getting them to, register voters, getting them to sign and say, I think this candidate should be on the ballot. The reason I ran is I was just really scared about Donald Trump. There were a lot of women that ran for the 2018 cycle because we could see things were really going to get scary for women. And I think we were right, as the recent rulings on Roe have shown.
Okay. And what do you consider yourself like what are your politics? Like
I'm as
what do you consider
progressive
yourself?
as you could be. I mean, you name a progressive issue, I'm there. Universal health care, obviously. Something I saw growing up in Mississippi was an economy that was just broken for working class people. I think that has really, I think it's accelerated as I've gotten older. So, if there's a progressive issue, I'm on that side of it. I do stop a little short when it comes to, I think there's a strong communist bent that's been very popular with younger people, and I really feel like I'm more agnostic on the question. Like, it's very clear to me that capitalism has some extreme problems. Like, I think when communists are arguing against capitalism, the critique of capitalism is always very, very, very strong. I think we can see how it's ravaging our environment. I can see how it's led to massive inequality. I can certainly see how younger generations are not getting a fair shake. What I've never gotten an answer from communists that satisfies me personally is, what do we replace it with? What does the economy look like? Who's going to be deciding which drugs we develop? I've just never gotten an answer that seems realistic to me. So I kind of try to stay in this place where, I mean, obviously we need more regulation. We need to, I think a lot of ideas on communism are good, like trying to get guaranteed housing for people. But I think it's just figuring out the work we can do together that's good and trying to get that forward.
Okay. What do you think are some of the things that are affecting America the most in negative ways?
Well, I mean, what do you think? To me, it's pretty much wealth inequality. I mean, can you name something bigger than that?
Sure, I could, but we're
Yeah,
asking not we're asking. These are your questions.
sure. I can monologue all day. It just feels weird. I think it's clearly wealth inequality is the biggest issue. Climate change, if we don't get serious about addressing that, we're just daft. In District 8, where I ran for office, I can point to you hundreds of houses that are going to be underwater very soon if we don't take it seriously. But I think if you really get to the core of why the United States is a less stable democracy today than it was 20 years ago, I think wealth inequality is really the thing that's driving that, because it's bipartisan, right? Like blue states feel it, red states feel it, and it's why this populism has really been on the rise in both parties, right? And I think it started with Reagan, where this process towards deregulating everything under the sun. I think today, when you mix that with big data and this very fine-tuned machine online that can stir people's emotions, I think it's a really dangerous mix, because you're dealing with people that they can't ever get a foothold in the economy to make a life for themselves. And I think on top of that, it's very easy for the authoritarian tendencies in our society to really exploit that. So I think it's really dark days ahead if we don't get some real solutions for working people.
Okay. I think I can get behind that. So, like, you've been in Twitch poll for a really short amount of time now, but you've
Mhm.
really already made a name for yourself. What has been your experience so far in this space? Like, what has been your experience with the people you've talked to, even debated, like Mr. Girl and stuff like that?
So can I just tell you like a completely true story, and you can believe me or not believe me?
Go right ahead.
So I love to run. Can I swear on this show?
Go right ahead.
Certainly.
Okay, I fucking love to run. I have run so much that this knee right here, I have had to get them to drill holes in it and re-stimulate parts of my cartilage to get it to grow again, because that's how much I run. Okay, so I had a terrible running injury. And my favorite show to watch is Sam Cedar, and he debated Destiny. And I found myself just going down this destiny hole, right? The destiny hole, and getting caught up in all the drama over the years, just mainlining Destiny for these 2 weeks. I'm on the couch with my leg up in the air, and I'm sitting there playing Factorio and watching Destiny. And, over the time, it's like, I got some opinions, y'all. Like, this is my favorite show on TV. I've got some opinions about Lav. I've got opinions about Anna. I got opinions about Brittany. And it's like, just, I saw them, yeah, I realized like I could probably call some of these people up and actually talk to them. And it's been a really good time so far. I've enjoyed it. And to be really honest, I think that I'm not seeing a viewpoint that I believe in represented very well on a lot of these shows. And I feel a responsibility to kind of bring that, right? I've said this before, but if Lav is the best perspective for hardcore feminism you can bring forward, and just take away my right to vote right now. So I think that this is a space where I have some experience and I have a pretty educated viewpoint that I could be helpful in.
Okay, yeah, that sounds really cool. Side thing, what's on your wall? I've been wondering that the stuff on your wall and the frames.
Back
What
there?
are those?
Are
Yeah.
you old enough to know Capcom CPS2 games? So Street Fighter 2, Darkstalker,
Okay.
Marvel vs. Capcom, Marvel vs. Capcom
Based.
2. Come on,
Very
those are classics. You gotta know the classics.
Yeah, I sell video games. It's like what I do for a living.
Oh,
Yeah. But like so like back on the thing. So you did a speed run. You hold like a world record for
I
speed running?
do. I hold multiple
What?
world records.
Oh, please tell us. Please enlighten us on the speed running.
So I am going to be at GDQ next week, speedrunning Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers Advance on Game Boy Advance. I am the second fastest Princess Peach speedrunner in the entire world, meaning if you do a Peach only speedrun, I'm one of the very, very, very fastest people on earth at doing this. You can watch my videos. I'm really, really good at this. It all started because back in I think it was 1988 when it came out. There weren't many women protagonists in video games. So Peach was really one of the very first in that game. So I just became obsessed with it. And, like I can sit there and beat Super Mario 2 in front of you in like 9 minutes very, very easily. And if I'm playing really well, it'll be 8 minutes, which is it's really hard to do.
How long have you invested into these games to become so good? Like what's this?
It's not even, I mean, how can you calculate how many times I've played a game when I play it obsessively my whole life, right? Like God, it's over, Jesus, it's like 30 years of playing that game at this point. So yeah, it's a lot.
Okay. Hey, what are your motivations to be so good? Like what are some of the motivations? Like I want to be the best at this game.
Yeah, I've often wondered if I'm a little bit on the autism spectrum, just because there's something in my mind where playing the same section of a game and really trying to master how good you are at it, it's really, really fulfilling in a way that I don't think is normal for people. So it's obsession, to be honest with you. It's really fulfilling to look at a game and then to start asking, how can I tear this apart? Resident Evil 3 remake is one of my very favorite games. I'm extremely good at that. And it's just because the story hit me, and just looping on it and playing it over and over again. It's probably not normal to sit down and spend an entire Saturday playing through Resident Evil 3 like 8 times in a row, but that's what I like to do if I have time.
Okay. So you mentioned kind of before you have hobbies. What are some of the hobbies that you have?
Yeah.
Outside of like Twitch balls. So what are some of the hobbies you do?
My favorite one, I think most people know me as a Porsche aficionado. So I love classic Porsches. I've got 4 right now, 3 of which I restored. The most famous one I have is a 1986 Porsche 911. It's a Carrera, and what's just beautiful about this car is when you get in a modern car, it's got things like hydraulic steering. It has an air conditioner. Just none of that exists in an old Porsche, right? So I spent so much of my life online that being able to take a step away and just experience yourself in this gearbox, it is the most thrilling thing at night, like driving it. The other side of that is having a garage of like classic Porsches. It's a lot of work to restore and maintain those. I don't take them to a shop necessarily unless I really have to. I grew up in Mississippi. One of the reasons I was able to have an engineering career is because I got into automotive stuff at such a young age. And I really just enjoy taking things apart and fixing them the best I can. So, unfortunately, all four of my Porsches right now, they're running fine. And I'm looking for a new project car, and it's tough because I don't have any more space, and I love all the ones I have and don't want to sell one.
And you had or have a video game company?
I
Is
did.
that correct?
Yes, I did.
You did. Can we get the story on that?
So, it was 2008. I moved to Boston when I got married, and I left my job behind in Silicon Valley. So I was asking myself, like, what do I want to do? I saw an Unreal demo on iOS, and I could see how the numbers were really going up with the number of women that were playing iOS games. To kind of just give you a little bit of background, in the NES era, one study I saw showed that it was 3% of women playing games. By the Super Nintendo era, that number had risen to 8%. But when I founded my video game company in 2010, that number had risen to 17%. So I said to myself, like, this is probably going to be a big platform for women. What if I launched a game company and tried to make games where women got to be the heroes the way that men get to? I did. I'm very proud of the game we made. It's Revolution 60. It was one half Mass Effect. It was one half Heavy Rain. It really, really worked well with the touch interface. And I was really proud to win an iMore Game of the Year award when we launched, which was very prestigious.
Okay, okay. And what were some of the games that were made? Stuff like that. What were some of your games that came out when during the company's existence?
Oh, it was Revolution 60 is the main game that our studio shipped. We did multiple versions of it. Just to be really honest with you, after we shipped Revolution 60, that's when Gamergate happened, and I found myself like getting dragged into this gender war for the game industry for the next 2 years. In a way that it just made it impossible to keep running my studio. Like, it's hard enough to keep a studio running when you're have 100% of your focus when you're flying all over the world and trying to get the FBI to prosecute the people that have mapped out your home and sent you messages about how they're going to murder you. It's kind of hard to focus, if that makes sense.
I can only imagine. So
Yeah.
I might as well get into it. Gamergate.
Oh boy. Is there anything
Obviously,
new to say on this at this point?
well, we're trying to every piece of kind of everything. So
Sure.
this is obviously a huge thing, all over world news. Most people know about this. You were very much involved. What is Gamergate to you? What happened? What in your experience happened?
Well, I
And
mean,
what
I
was your
can tell you the reason I got involved in Gamergate is they were targeting women that I cared about, right? So basically you had this mob that figured out a playbook for shutting up women that they didn't like what they had to say. They would go and do internet research and find something out of her past to attack her with, and then just mobs of people would come and go after her until, basically she decided to stay silent. They ran this playbook on woman after woman after woman that I knew. I reached out like mad in back channel, asking people to stand up. To this day, I can't watch Greg Miller videos because I wrote him. I was a huge fan of him and his work at IGN. Yeah, I wrote him really directly before Gamergate really started firing off. And I said, can you please stand up for some of the women in your industry? And he just wrote me the most bullshit nonsense back. And I really realized that if we were going to try to change the culture of how women were treated at work and try to get companies to adopt policies to have their employees' backs against the mob, I realized that I was going to have to do that myself. So when they went after me, I kept speaking up, and the rest is history.
How did this impact your life? Like,
Oh,
what did this do
God.
to?
It destroyed it. I had clinical PTSD. My husband ended up losing his job just from trying to take care of me because he was so distracted at work. He wasn't doing great work. It cost me my game studio. It was horrible. It was. I'm not gonna say it's the worst thing I've ever gone through, but it took an extremely heavy toll that took years to get past.
What do you think the aftermath of Gamergate is? Like, what do you think that did to the video game industry?
I think, we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of Gamergate, and I'm not gonna say that I regret standing up to Gamergate because it was the correct thing to do in that moment. I think really sadly, there's very little positive that came out of Gamergate. Like, we didn't get the industry to really change their hiring practices. I think they're more aware of the mob and standing up against employees that are targeted with harassment today. So that's good. I mean, I can point to you multiple studios that developed policies about that. But I think that Gamergate was like this inevitable step that was going to happen on social media of the mob mentality just poisoning all of our discourse, right? Because after Gamergate, it went to comics and then it went to sci-fi. And then you had Steve Bannon adopting that playbook and it led over into the presidential election, right? Now it's really impossible to distinguish the Republican Party from Gamergate. And to be honest, vast parts of the left act exactly like Gamergate. So I think I was really part of trying to stop a war, and I failed.
What would you have done differently if you could redo everything from the start?
I wish I had the maturity today that I needed back then to do it more skillfully. I would have messaged things to put gamers less on blast. I think that was the biggest problem. I was watching. Did you see the gym video that came out a couple of weeks ago? Do you remember this with the girl at the gym?
I did not see that.
Okay. So this was a video of a girl at the gym that's like, oh, this guy's looking at me. Look at him. He's about to come over here. And it's just a dude trying to be nice. He's probably like a little horny and is interested in this young woman, but there's nothing nefarious about it, right? So the woman overreacts, and then the entire internet is like screaming at this woman to the point she has to go out and apologize for putting this random dude on blast. And I saw that and I'm like, we are really in a gender Cold War right now. I really believe this because I think women are out there hurting. I think like Me Too, we did not get meaningful changes for sexual assault like on a policy level introduced. And I think women are hurting about that. I think men are out there and they are hurting. They're lonelier than ever before. They're under socialized. They want friends and community, and they don't feel like anyone cares about them. Everybody's in pain right now. And I think what I can see really clearly is it was correct to be angry at the way I was treated and the way that women in the game industry is treated. I was wrong to default to stereotypes so much in the way I messaged those things because it didn't, we know the outcome. It didn't work. So the thing that I would do differently is I would try to get gamers on my side with smarter messaging. I should have said things like, you deserve a game industry that will treat you better. You deserve a game industry like with this and that. You know, the women out there that are gamers, I know they can count on you. Like, there are ways to message things that would have gotten them to be part of the solution. And instead, I was so traumatized and angry in that moment, I didn't do that. And like I said, I failed.
So I guess on a kind of a lighter tone, like you're a well-known person. Like you're
Yeah.
you're by far the biggest person we've ever talked to as far as like name recognition. What's that like? What's it like knowing that like you came into Twitchville and everyone knew who you were? So like what's that like? Like what's it like for most people just to kind of know who you are?
It makes me uncomfortable, to be really honest with you. Um, uh, I, I think there are people out there that seek fame, and it's just always been really uncomfortable for me. Like, what I want is a platform to try to make the world better, but like, sometimes I'll be in an airport and I'll have someone come up to me and they'll want to introduce their daughter to me and, say this or that about me. And it's just like, I don't know. It's weird. Um, I just try to focus on the work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you feel like you're treated differently than people who are in the same position you are, who are like men and stuff, because you are a woman? Do you feel like you're treated any differently
I
in like
think that,
society and
yeah, I think one of the ways that structural sexism comes out is when there's a benefit of the doubt. I think men tend to get it and women don't. So I think that I got accused today on Reddit of being very careful with my messaging. It was like, yeah, of course I have to be careful with my messaging because if I say anything unskillfully, people tend to read the worst into that. It's weird if you're a public figure, you have to get used to. It's like there are two versions of yourself. There's the real version of me that is married and is kind of a policy nerd and a gaming nerd, and then there's this shadow Brianna that's out there that sent death threats to herself and invented harassment and wants to drop moon rocks on people. And it's just it's weird because you have to deal with a lot of people hating you, and like absolutely this based on false information, and there's really nothing you can do about it. So I think that's fairly strange.
so like not just from Gamergate, but from just being kind of notorious. Like how do you manage like how do you manage how people treat you and stuff like that? Like what are some of the things that you do to try to like not pay attention to all the negativity?
I think, just being honest with you, you eventually get broken to the point where negativity doesn't really phase you. I've told this story before, but it was a while back, and I got just a really nasty death threat. Not I'm gonna kill you. Someone sent me this story they wrote about how they were gonna cut the flesh off my body and then boil me, and it was just really disturbing stuff.
Some Ed Gein shit there.
Yeah, it was really fucked up. So I'm sitting there reading it, right? I'm sitting there reading what they're saying to me, and I know I should have some emotional reaction to it. I should be angry, I should be scared, I should like feel something. And do you know how when you're at the gym and you're like doing weights and you just can't push anymore? Like that's what
Yep.
it feels like emotionally when it comes to some of this harassment. Like it's just a muscle that's just so tired. I don't feel anything anymore. And I think there was a cost to my humanity in getting there.
If you could go back in time, would you like be like, no, fuck Gamergate, I don't want to be on all of it. You just wouldn't do any of it. Would you just like
No,
restart life? You would.
no, I'd do it again. I mean, because it's not about what was in my highest mission in life is to be true to myself, right? I grew up in Mississippi. This is a state where you're really still adjudicating the Civil War. I've seen racism. I've known people there in the KKK. I've seen some really dark shit. And to me, it was a question of character, right? Are you going to stand up in that moment? Are you going to do what needs to be done? Or are you going to just keep your head down and do what's best for you? I know this sounds cheesy, but my father's a naval officer, right? I think about serving my country a lot. And I think someone needed someone to stand up in that moment. I don't regret doing it. I wish I'd had more skill at that point. But, it's also true I was a 30-year-old gamer, indie game developer. I wasn't a politician back then.
Okay. I think somebody online has some questions to ask you.
Let's do it.
Somebody, you there?
Sorry about that. I had a minor emergency.
Oh,
No
there
worries
we
at
go.
all.
He is back now.
Let's do it.
First and foremost, I hate to drag us back toward Gamergate, but what do you think the leading cause that kind of brought that into the cultural norm? What made Gamergate happen, in your opinion?
In what sense? Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Well, I mean, it wasn't really a thing. There was this general, underlying sentiment, maybe, that a minority of people had. But what brought this so much to the forefront and made it the cultural phenomenon that it ended up being, where, CNN and Fox News were reporting on these things?
I think a story of a woman in danger is a real winner. Like, something I see really clearly now is that, the press sure loved to report on my death threats. They didn't have much interest in covering policies to rectify the situations in the game industry, right? Like a woman in danger is a very appealing story to the media. I think that certainly blew it up. I also think it just consumed Twitter, right? It's just all anyone was talking about. So I think every journalist was seeing this, and just to be honest, Gamergate looked like the deranged jerks that they were, right? So I think it was a very clear case of right and wrong to a lot of people. I think that the entire reason that the resentment built up with the Gamergate movement is I think the game industry made a mistake in. You can actually look at documents back in the NES era and see how they made a decision back in 1985 when they brought the system to the United States that they were going to market explicitly towards boys. And then when the Super Nintendo came out, they made that very deliberate decision again. And Sega did it too, up until the very final years. So I think those decisions created a expectation in this space that it was a space for men and boys. So I think it really made people feel very threatened when women were talking about changing the culture and asking to be included. I think a lot of people took that personally.
Okay. How do you think that the game reporting landscape has kind of changed as a result and after this?
It's terrible. The game industry is in shambles, at least the reporting side of it. I mean, no disrespect to I've got friends like Rebecca Valentine at IGN, does amazing investigative work. But the truth is, the game industry has much less power today, game journalism. I don't know about you, but I don't read IGN every day anymore. I don't read GameSpot every day. I do watch every single skill up video that comes out, right? That's my reviews, are YouTube personalities that I trust. So I think that I think that I just don't think the work is as good as it used to be. I don't. I think that sometimes the game industry tries to, they're in this weird place where they're trying to do like clickbait stuff or, silly little things that work for the writer in that individual day. But they're not as serious, generally speaking, they're not a serious industry publication to cover like workplace abuses, right? So I think that as a whole, it's not really serving anyone. It's not serving the gamers. It's not serving the workers. And I don't think it's serving the people that work there. It seems very dysfunctional to me.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, generally speaking. You mentioned briefly a little bit of what motivated you to start your own game company and make your own game. What was that process like once you'd made that decision of, hey, I want to go in and start doing this? Like, what did that mountain look like when you started climbing it?
Thank you for asking me that. It was honestly a bunch of ass and chair time and feeling really stupid. So I don't know if you know Photoshop, but learning Maya is Photoshop cubed and then cubed again. It is really, really, really difficult. Unreal Engine is really, really, really difficult to learn from scratch. I had no training whatsoever, but I do have a CS background, so I basically just sat my ass in a chair and found friends that knew what they were doing and asked questions until I got it solved. I will never forget the folks over at Chair that made Infinity Blade. I went to GDC one year because my company could not get the mesh influencing bone limit in skeletal meshes. We could not get it to run on iOS. We needed more than 25, which was the limit. That's like the number of joints in hair and face and arms and legs and costume. And I make a beeline to go to every single GDC panel with someone on it who had worked on Infinity Blade. I'm talking to them afterwards. I'm like, guys, come on, I'm down bad. I need your help. Tell me what to do. And they were so nice and so sweet to me, even though I was no one at the time, and helped me figure out that technical problem. So that was it. Phoning in every favor I had from anyone trying to figure out what the fuck I was doing.
So it's been quite a while since I played Revolution 60, but...
Oh, did you play it? Awesome.
Years and years ago, but...
Oh my goodness. Which ending did you get? Do you remember?
Oh, I couldn't tell you at this point, unfortunately.
Oh.
Just curious, how did you go about coming up with the concept, writing the story? Like, did you know what you wanted to do before you started, or did it evolve as you were going through the build?
So to be honest, Mass Effect is my favorite game, period. I mean, there's a lot of Mass Effect in Revolution 60, right? Yeah, no, it is. I mean, look at Professional Renegade, Rogue, Paragon. It's the exact same game mechanic, right? So I had this idea in my head for a game that just you played. One of the things I really hate about narratives is it's always happy ending, right? I wanted to create a game where no matter what happened at the end of it, there's no happy ending in Revolution 60. You go through, you make your choices, some good things happen. Depending on your choices, some bad things are going to happen. And in fact, the worst ending you can get in Revolution 60 is if you go through and you try to please everybody. If you don't pick a side, you get this ending where everyone dies and you die at the same time. So that's what I wanted to do, is to tell the story that took the QuickTime elements of Heavy Rain, which map really, really well to a touch screen, right? Like if Holiday is doing a bicycle kick and you draw a circle on screen to indicate that, it's a game mechanic that feels very natural. So I wanted to mix those things and just tell a short cinematic story. And if I remember correctly, Revolution 60 has 24 endings. I was so proud when we looked at the analytics. Most people got the worst ending possible when they played that game. And we did everything we could to tell them, it's on the loading screen. We're like, if you don't pick a side, you're going to get caught in the crossfire. We warned them over and over and over again. And most people have to be a people pleaser. And I really think that says something.
Fantastic. So Again, it sounds like you kind of had a general idea of where you wanted to go, and then your mechanics kind of spoke to the narrative that you were going to play
Yep,
with, and
exactly.
it kind of built as you went. What do you think about the future of game development? And in particular, I'm curious about the impact of AI content creation and the way that this is potentially going to start to affect things in the future.
I'm really doubtful that AI is ever going to be super intrusive in game development. Like, we have a lot of AI tools already. Like, SpeedTree is a classic example. Like if you look at a map on Far Cry, they didn't go out and sculpt every map, every rock, right? To a certain extent, it's procedurally generated, and then an environmental designer goes into the town and really refines things, right? So I think it's going to add to some really awesome tools. If you look at like with Unreal Engine 5, they're doing some really interesting things with automatic decimation for vert decimation and lowering your poly count. But I don't think there's going to be a point where a person is just going to be able to um, have a computer make a game for them that's going to be worth playing. I think that's always going to be in the hands of people.
Fantastic. Do you think that you'll ever, dive back into that field again and try to develop something else, or jump onto a team with someone, or even just mentor another team that's trying to develop anything?
A story came out today that Blumhouse rather, the people that made Megan and a bunch of other horror movies, they're starting a games division. And I gotta tell you, I sat there and I read the story and I thought to myself, what the fuck are you doing working in politics? It's a shitty job. It's exhausting. People are mad at you all the time. And I gotta tell you, I would love nothing more than to go back to the game industry. I'm a really good team leader. I was good at leading Revolution 60, and I think after the experience of running Congress, I'd be a much better project lead today. It's just that, in my view, our country is on fire. So I don't feel like making pleasant distractions while democracy dies is a very good use of my time. So I think it's about serving your country.
Fantastic. I do want to dive into a little bit of your political aspirations and your political career, but just real quick, last thing on the game development, and how large was your team at the height of it, and how many people did you guys have running to try to get this thing up and going?
So there were really, if you look at it, there were 4 people that developed this game. It was me, Amanda, Maria, and my husband, Frank, right? If you go through and you count voice actors and you count contractors, if you count everybody, there were probably 15 people on our team at the very height of it. But the majority of the work was done by the 4 of us. I mean, Amanda doesn't get enough credit. This is a woman who had her first child. She developed and literally animated a 4-hour movie by herself while nursing a newborn. I mean, it was just absolutely crazy. Indie game development is very hard work.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. Holy Hannah. So, kind of to run through the timeline, you had your game development. We had this whole media fiasco, life-ending, changing event that occurred, and then after that, you decided to dive into politics.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Gamergate situation is what motivated you to move into politics, or is
No.
it specifically just looking at the world environment and where we were, and this is where I need to be?
It was Trump. And I mean, I had a national profile after Gamergate. The mistake that I made running for Congress, and I see this very clearly now, having a national profile is great for having pieces written about you in the Times. That doesn't vote, right? Anyone that's going to run for Congress successfully in Massachusetts needs that you need to be going to D-Trip events locally. DTCs locally. You need to have been volunteering. You need to know the party leaders in town. So I'd been focusing so much of my effort on my national profile that nobody knew me locally, right? So I think I assumed that it would give me more of a leg up than it did. Also, just being honest, the incumbent has such a massive advantage in our system, you know. So I think it's extremely hard for anyone to get someone out of office that's been there for 20 years.
So I know that you're still doing a lot of political work today and a lot of activism. Do you think that you'll ever throw your hat back into the ring to try to take office, whether locally or go for the big shot again to get into the House of Representatives or even into the Senate?
I'm not done running for office.
And what sort of work are you doing now? Where are you putting your shoulder to the wheel as of now?
So I'm executive director of Rebellion PAC. This is one of the very few progressive super PACs that exists. We are the special forces of the progressive movement. Cenk, who's my boss, he runs Young Turks. He will call me up and say, Brianna, we're getting involved in X race. And, we will raise a ton of money and show up with television ads and volunteers and do everything we can to help. So I'm extremely proud of that work. And, that's what we do.
And what does that look like from your perspective? Like, what does your day-to-day entail when you're working on this?
I want to tell you the honest truth. Running a nonprofit is about 50% of your job is compliance and making sure you stay above board with the FEC. The other 50% of that is generally fundraising. And then when you're not fundraising, we're getting involved in races. I'm writing scripts for television ads. I'm placing buys with television stations. I'm producing ads. I'm working with field coordinators to get volunteers out to places. It's a lot of work.
If someone were to want to, start doing their own work in that same field or contribute to the work that you're doing now, what would be the best way for someone to try to get involved a little more?
It's a great question. I would say find a candidate that you believe in them, something you like about them, go and volunteer. Knock on doors, canvas, phone bank. The reality is if you do that and you got some skill, you show up on time, you're going to find yourself rising through the ranks very, very quickly. So that's all it is. Just get involved.
And where do you see us going, both on a societal level and on a political level, in, say, the next 10 to 20 years?
It's a really hard question. I kind of tend to think about the short term, right? So, Biden is obviously up again in 2024. I do believe he's going to run. I think we've got to wrestle at some point with a Democratic Party that doesn't seem capable of stopping the fascism that seems to be on the rise in this country. I think we've gotten too academic. I think that we tend to focus on things that don't really matter for working people. And I think that the Republicans have been extremely effective at, voicing themselves as the champions of the working class. So I think all respect to everyone that's older in the party. I genuinely appreciate your service. But I think it's time to get new leadership in the sense that, our Latina outreach programs suck in the party. I think our ability to talk to younger people is not great in the party. Our tech policy sucks in the party. And I think that a lot of our leaders are playing with a playbook that seems to be based in the 80s and not the 2020s.
So speaking of trying to reach out to the younger generations, you've made yourself very active here in Twitch and in other online spaces. I've seen you on a number of different panels and doing kind of the debate circuit a little bit. What do you think about the debate circuit? How similar is it to real life politics? Is it a completely different animal, and in which ways?
So that's a really good question. I think that it's certainly the same skills that are involved there. I think the incentives on Twitch are so aligned for conflict and drama in a way that is really disheartening, right? It's I don't understand, and I was trying to talk to Destiny about this the other day on the panel we did together. I don't understand, like, generally speaking, the right, their commentators don't tend to beef with each other. But on the left, literally everybody seems to hate each other on Twitch. And I just don't understand that. I get that, like, I certainly watch drama content, so maybe I'm part of the problem. But it just feels like there's a smarter, more adult conversation to be had here than what we're doing.
So, again, you kind of speak to it there. There seems to be a lack of mutual understanding that occurs, particularly on the left here in Twitch poll. There's a lot of like moralizing and kind of virtue signaling and punching across the aisle or within the aisle that occurs here. How do you think that we can try to achieve that mutual understanding a little bit better? Is there a better way that you see, something that everybody seems to be missing?
I hope somebody will clip chimp this out and run this on Twitter. So if anyone out there like is on LSF, you want to clip chimp this, go ahead. Because I really fucking mean this. When I got involved in Gamergate, it was because I really felt a moral obligation to stand up and talk about something that was going really wrong in the game industry. A decision I have made right now is going to make a lot of people really angry at me, is I am fucking done with these toxic, progressive politics. It's not serving anyone. I'm tired of the moral hectoring. I'm tired of the narcissism. I'm tired of people running anonymous accounts and doing everything they can to divide us. You know, having some academic position about a dream world that you believe in and attacking people relentlessly when they don't agree with you, you are the fucking cancer of our movement. And I've really been bullied into silence for years now about it. Because, I mean, I don't like getting yelled at online, but it's like we've given the most insane, reactionary, anonymous Twitter accounts all the power. And here's a fact. Destiny hates these people. Vosh hates these people. Hassan hates them. I know Jank hates them. I mean, Keffels hates them. She's talked about this. We have got all the reasonable adult people in the room have got to, like, marginalize these motherfuckers. They are killing us. Like, I tweeted something today, and I had some jackass Twitter account roll up in my feed, and they're like, oh, I guess you just want people to cut people in rehab a break when they're not black people. And it's like, what are you talking about? It has nothing to do there. I've never said anything in my entire career to signify that. This is just this moral hectoring position that's about your own smug superiority. And we got real shit to deal with. We've got real problems to focus on. So I'm really going to very consciously, in my public role, I'm going to just do everything I fucking can to marginalize these motherfuckers. They are killing us. I mean, you're sick of them too, right?
So, man, we've talked a lot about the people that are doing things the wrong way and what the wrong things to do here in the space are. Yeah. Is there anybody out here that you feel is on the right path or doing things the right way, or that other people should try to emulate?
Yeah, definitely. I like Hassan a lot. I know a lot of streamers have some problems with him. What I like about Hassan is I think it's good to have the progressive left represented as like this sexy, sensitive guy that's out there that's just fucking cool, right? That has a lot of value. I'm not saying I agree with every take that he has, but I think there's a lot of value there. I think Destiny is having a really interesting conversation, right? I don't always agree with it, but I think he's doing interesting work. Like, I certainly watched that show. I think Keffels. I'm tired of people shitting on Keffels. I have a young relative of mine. She's trans. She loves watching couples for the memes and the jokes, and just loves a silly personality that's out there talking about her in her own language. It makes her feel heard as a trans person, right? I think there's a lot of people doing really good work in this space. I think it would be really productive for us to stop firing on each other and aiming at other people.
So we've kind of meandered around this concept a little bit throughout a couple of the questions here. But what are your thoughts on cancel culture, or kind of this boycott culture that everybody seems to be existing in, where these are the people on my side and I'm going to support these people, and everybody else I'm going to throw as many rocks as I can at them?
So I want to be really honest with you and say, when I don't truly know what cancel culture means. I mean, everyone throws this around, and when people say it, as best as I can tell, it seems to be men that don't like facing consequences for bad behavior. And I'm not trying to get into like a gender war thing, but yeah, I'm the child of a naval officer, right? I think when you fuck up, you should face consequences for it. I mean, within reason. But like, there are some people that do truly need to face some serious consequences for things they've done. Mark Halperin is a really good example. This is a producer at ABC. He used his position. He sexually assaulted women at work, if I'm remembering that story correctly. He certainly abused his power. He tried to destroy women who tried to speak up against him in back channel, and he wants to just apologize and come forward. To me, when you're trying to destroy colleagues in back channel, that's kind of the point that I think decent people should kind of not invite you at the very highest echelons of that profession anymore. So, I certainly agree. My issue isn't with cancel culture. My issue is with reactivity. Because I do think the internet forces or encourages us to be a lot more reactive and less thoughtful than we should be. So, does that kind of make sense to you? Like, if you're talking about reactivity and mobs, like jumping to conclusions before there's a fact or a process to look at someone, I'm with you there. But I think cancel culture has really been misapplied in a way where it's really about people avoiding consequences for bad actions. So that's kind of my view of it.
What do you think that the big message that people seem to have missed along the way has been? What's the thing that people need to know that they seem to be completely oblivious to?
On cancel culture?
Generally speaking, in our political landscape today, particularly in the left.
Oh God. Oh my God. The biggest thing by far is, look, everyone you're going to talk to out there is looking for dignity and respect. Doesn't matter if they're Republican, Democrat, Independent, when it doesn't vote, black person, like progressive, normie Democrat, gay person, woman. Everyone out there has a story about something that doesn't feel fair to them, and they're looking for that to be heard, right? I think that one of the really unfortunate things about this era of politics is it's so tribal that we can't even concede that other people out there are like trying to look for some dignity in them, right? They're always the enemy. And we think that we're going to be able to scream at them until, they relent and agree with us. That's not how politics works. Politics is about coalition building. And something that really radically changed my views was running for office and having to talk to so many people. So I really think we've got to get past this absolutism and try to find a way to work together on common goals. Just one example, something Republicans and Democrats very, very strongly agree on is that our public health system is failing. Then we disagree on how to get there, but we both really, really, really agree that this is a problem for us. I think that what the system has done is figured if they got us screaming at each other, we're not going to be talking and trying to find some common ground to, say, lower the cost of medical schools to get more doctors out there. There are a million things we could be doing. I just think we've gotten into a very non-constructive way of approaching it.
Okay, my last question here, and it's kind of a two-parter. We've got the 2024 election coming up relatively soon. First part is, who's your Fantasyland dream candidate that you'd like to see run or take the Democratic nomination? And who do you think is going to end up sitting on top of the pile when we get to November?
Well, Elizabeth Warren, I know a lot of men on the left don't like her. To me, she's my dream candidate, right? She's my senator. I've seen her so often in person here in Massachusetts. I really hope we can get her to be president one day. She's very pragmatic, and she really talks a lot about working class issues. She's just a fantastic senator for us, and I really regret that she's not our nominee. So if there were a world where Joe Biden decided not to run and I could pick anyone else to run to be president there, it would be Elizabeth Warren. I think the end result of 2024 is pretty straightforward. I think if Trump gets the nomination on the Republican side, I think it's going to be a landslide for Biden. And I think the numbers I've seen on the polls seem to increasingly bear that out. I think if DeSantis is the nominee, I think it's going to be a fight. People should not underestimate the advantage that being an incumbent is for the White House. Trump was one of the very, very few people in modern American politics to lose and be a one-term president. But at the same time, let's be honest, he's not always coherent. And DeSantis is a very, very strong opponent that's very able to tap into these culture issues. So I think if he ends up being the nominee, we're going to really have to work for it.
So I do have one more. Someone in the audience reached out, Cricket Style Jay, one of my fantastic people seeking clarity and communication with people on all sides. He wants to know if you have any thoughts on how to reach out to people with very different values. If you're on the left, how do you reach out to evangelicals and either try to bring them over to your side or just have a productive conversation with them?
It's not complicated. You just listen to them. You try to assume good faith. You try to hear what they're saying. You mirror it back to them. And you take what they're saying seriously. This may surprise you, but over the years, I've gotten to be friends with some Gamergaters, right? A lot of my dearest friends are Republicans, right? It's I feel that this era, and I think one of the ways this era is really disserviced younger people is you don't have a memory of a time where you had to learn to get along with and network with people you disagreed with because it's so easy to stay in your own camp. So I think it's not hard. You just try to see the humanity in them and you try to find common ground. I've never found that difficult.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I really appreciate you answering my question. Alexa, do you have anything else for us?
I do. So in your time here, who would be some people you'd like to talk to in a one-on-one environment, like conversation / debate?
I would love to talk to Chud Logic more. I think he does, he's clearly way to the right of me. He's more interested in drama content, but I really enjoyed sparring with him. That was really fun.
What would you like to talk with him about?
Really anything. I think there's good in Chud. I think I could convince him that feminism is would have more benefit for his life than maybe he currently believes. I would love to make that case to him in person. Not so erudite. She's become a good friend of mine. I'd love to go on her stream again. I was talking to her today. She's so damn smart, and she's just modeling something that no one else in the Twitch sphere is. I just respect the hell out of her. She's a really good person. I think I want to talk to Destiny again. I think that Destiny and I are on the same wavelength in the sense that we can get very distanced from our emotions and kind of focus on policy in a way that kind of leaves personal stuff out of it. And I think I could be a pretty strong viewpoint that is not represented in his current sphere. So I'd like to do that. I think the other person is, yeah, that's really it. I think they're the ones doing the most interesting work right now.
Well, maybe we can get that set up at some point. So I guess kind of my final thing is there anything you wish we would have asked you that we didn't?
It's a good question for a journalist to ask. Yeah, can we talk? I mean, I've really found this frustrating. So over on Reddit, there's a really big question. Like, did Brianna suddenly have a change of heart? Why is she reaching out to people right now? Is she just saying what she's trying to say? I hope today, like, can I ask y'all, like, do I seem like a genuine person in what I'm saying here? Like, do you feel like I'm lying to
Yeah.
you or, yeah,
I think you were very genuine.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is what I'm finding frustrating, right? I think people are so used to reading malintent that they can't even imagine someone that's genuinely interested in coming in on good faith and trying to push the dialogue forward. So I wish we'd gotten to talk about that more.
I have someone who DM'd me asking this question. What was the transition like from Gamergate to today, and what is it like looking back in retrospect, and how this changed your life and how this brought you to this space? Have a long time.
Well, the big thing with Gamergate is I should have gone into therapy for trauma a lot sooner. In fact, one of the reasons I'm so willing to give Keffels a break right now, because look, let's just be straight. Like, she's made some really bad mistakes in the last few weeks. I remember being so traumatized that I could not tell up from down. And it came out with me doing things in the public eye that I think cemented how people saw me in ways that did not help me, right? I think if you asked a lot of gamers right now what they thought of Brianna Wu, it would be, well, she's shrill. She hates all men, right? She wants this and that. And I don't think that's who I am. So I think that, in this process of kind of moving from, this person people know to Gamergate to, running for office, running a pack and trying to make an impact on the world after that, I think it's been this growth from all that trauma I experienced that gave me a very grounded sense of the world and a real ability to not take things personally. So I think it's been good ultimately, but it came at a very high cost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I think all the questions. This was amazing. You were wonderful to talk to. Uninteresting. I was super excited to talk to you. It lived up to every expectation. Why don't you? I don't know if you stream or you're planning on streaming. So where can we?
I will be streaming next week at GDQ with Frame Fatales. So
Okay.
please watch that. Please watch me speedrun Super Mario Brothers 2 and see if I can recapture that world record.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, I'm going to Alexa, come to discord.gg/politicalshitshow. That's all I ask. Give somebody online your money. I'm probably doing a panel this Saturday. I do panels like every Saturday. I try to. Sometimes. And we're going to be doing more conversations with more people. Definitely not interested in Brianna Wu, but with more people for sure.
You can invite
So
me
somebody
anytime. We'll see if I'm around. I'm
I
here to
would
debate more
love to have
politics.
you on. I would love to have you on some political shit shows. I will definitely take you up on that one.
Sounds good.
All right, somebody online, take us away.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Queen Alexa, for putting all of this together. Brianna Wu, thank you so much for giving us some of your time this evening, joining us for a very interesting conversation, diving into some of the nitty-gritty details and some of the hard-hitting things. I know that you gave yourself a little plug for your GDQ stuff that you're doing next week, but where else can people find you? Where else can people come and contribute to the things that you're doing if they appreciate the work that you are doing?
100%. So I do have a Twitch channel. Now, I want to warn you, my Twitch channel is just me speedrunning, okay? It's not politics. You can come watch me speedrun Resident Evil. It's not a big channel, but if you like that stuff, it's Oh Yeah, Brianna Wu. You're welcome to come watch me do that. You can follow me on Twitter. It's just Brianna Wu. And additionally, if you want to support my political endeavors, you can do that by going to helptherebellion.com.
Brianna, thank you again so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. I wish you the best of luck in all of your future endeavors, and I look forward to talking to you again really soon. Have a wonderful rest of your night.
We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Brianna. Wow, that was great. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, that's one of the best ones. I put that more like the Dylan Burns level of conversation. That was really good. I thought I really enjoyed. That's the biggest person we have to by far yet.
For the next one that we do in a little bit, but until then, you guys do me a favor, take good care of yourself, and we will see you again very soon. Bye for now.